For today's match, Zach is piloting his Space Wolves with the Champions of Russ detachment. He's bringing Logan Grimnar on Stormrider, a lone lieutenant with Combi-weapon, 2 3-man squads of Eradicators, a Calidus assassin, 3 Wolfguard battle leaders on Thunderwolves, and 2 Wolflords on Thunderwolves, all attached to 3 6-man Thunderwolf Cav units, a 5-man squad of JPIs, a squad of Infiltrators, and a squad of Scouts. Imperial Knights are bringing 4 Helverins, 6 Warglaves, an Atrapos with Sticky Objective, a Navigator, and a Calidus assassin. Today's primary mission is Scorched Earth, mission rule is Swift Action, and deployment is Tipping Point. Space Wolves are going first, and for pre-game actions, the Scouts will push forward towards the Knights' natural expansion. Top of round 1, and the Space Wolves will draw Assassination and Secure No Man's Land as their secondaries for the turn. They have selected Saga of the Warriorborn as their completed saga, giving the army Sustain Hits 1 in melee. Oath of Moment is the Lone Armiger. Start of the movement phase, and the Lone Op Lieutenant will move on to the natural expansion. Scouts drive forward, seizing the Knight's natural expansion. The JPIs move towards the center of the board, hiding inside the nearby building. Thunderwolf Cav will inch forward, making sure to stay behind that corner so they are unable to be shot from across the board. Logan Grimnar and company will move as far forward as they can, keeping the Lone Lieutenant company but staying inside the defense of the building. 3rd Cav squad will loop around the building, staying behind cover. Quick first turn for the Space Wolves. They will pitch Assassination for a command point and score 5 points for Secure No Man's Land. Bottom of round 1, and the Imperial Knights will draw Sabotage and Recover assets as their secondaries for the turn. There's no Titanic on the board, so the Atrapos Bondsman will not come into effect. Start of the movement phase, and the Helverin will move back to max range but maintain line of sight on the Thunderwolf Cav. Boneglaive will move a full 12 inches to get line of sight on the Scouts. 2nd Warglaive will advance to support its buddy and take over the point. Helverin moves towards the center, also adding to the OC on the objective. Legion of the Damned Helverin will come forward as well, staging for next turn. Atropos moves into the terrain feature to sabotage. Calidus will reposition to screen out the backfield. Warglaive that is oathed will volunteer as tribute and pushes itself onto the center objective. 2nd Warglaive will follow suit, but unfortunately has just enough room that it has to base. Green Warglaive will reposition to screen out the backfield. Start of the shooting phase, and the Imperial Knights will spend a command point on Squire's duty, targeting Logan's squad. The Helverin from across the board fires 48 inches into the back cav, managing to take it down. Space Wolves will then use the Wolfguard battle leader's once per game ability to reactive move, hiding the rest of the squad inside the building and out of line of sight from any of the armigers on the center of the field. Only one Helverin can still see the squad, so it will open fire. In response, Logan will pop Armor of Contempt. It manages to pick up a model and leave another at 1 wound remaining. Warglaive in the center will fire its thermal spear at the other Thunderwolf Cav, prepping for the reactive move. Unfortunately, it completely whiffs, so the one up front will now take a crack at the same Cav squad, and they make both their Imbol saves. They do choose to perform their Blood Surge now. Boneglaive will fire into the Scouts, absolutely incinerating 3 of them. Time for charges, and the Boneglaive will make its charge into the remaining Scouts. It will then proceed to sweep the remaining Scouts off the objective. It chooses not to consolidate. And that is going to end the turn for the Imperial Knights, with the Inquisitor and the Warglaive performing the Recover assets, and the Atrapos attempting to complete Sabotage. Space Wolves will pick up the Calidus Assassin. Top of round 2, and the Space Wolves will draw No Prisoners and Behind Enemy Lines as their secondaries for the turn. They control 2 objectives and will score 10 points on primary. 2nd Thunderwolf Cav squad advances a whopping 16 inches to split across both sides of the building to rush the center objective. 3rd squad of Thunderwolf Cav will shift to the right to flank the center objective. Logan Grimnar and company will rush the southern flank, threatening the Knights' home objective. Calidus Assassin comes in deep within the Knights' deployment zone to score behind enemy lines. Squad of Eradicators arrive out of reserves with their eyes set on the Warglaive from House Malanax. Second squad of Eradicators arrives 9 inches away from the Helverin. Start of the shooting phase, and the Eradicators fire into the Helverin, knocking off 4 wounds. Second Eradicator squad will fire into the Boneglaive, bringing it down to just 9 wounds remaining. Calidus will fire into the Calidus, leaving her with just a single wound. It's charge o'clock, and the Thunderwolf Cav make their charge into the Warglaive on the center objective. Since they charge, their weapons go up to damage 2 and absolutely obliterate the Warglaive. It does not explode, but they do pile into the Warglaive behind it. The Warglaive will swing into the Cav, failing to take down a single model. That is going to end the turn for the Space Wolves. They will score 2 points for no prisoners and 3 points for behind enemy lines. The Imperial Knights will complete recover assets for 3 points and sabotage for an additional 3 points. Space Wolves took down a vehicle this turn, which completes Saga of the Beast Slayer, giving them lethals for the rest of the game. At the end of the turn, Knights will pick up the Calidus Assassin. Bottom of round 2, and it will be a fantastic time for you to smash that like and subscribe button. While you're doing that, the Imperial Knights will draw Cleanse and Marked for Death as their secondaries for the turn. Units that are marked for death are the JPIs, the 3rd Thunderwolf Cav squad, and the Infiltrators. They control 2 objectives and will score 10 points on primary. Start of the movement phase, and the Neon Helverin will push forward an inch away from the Eradicators to attempt a move block. Green Warglaive will complete the move block and protect the home objective. The Navigator will peek around the corner to potentially battle shock Grimnar's squad. The Warglaive in combat will fall back as close as possible, allowing another squad to fire into them, but blocking a blood surge. Boneglaive will move in on the Eradicators, remaining outside of engagement range, hopefully getting line of sight on the JPIs. Warglaive, that was guarding the objective, will come around the corner to stage for next turn. The Trapos will push forward, taking its place up against the wall. Helverin reverses back into the deployment zone to deal with the Calidus Assassin. The Knight's Calidus will come in behind the template to vect both Thunderwolf Cav squads. Start of the shooting phase, and the Navigator will attempt to battle shock Grimnar's squad, but he succeeds his leadership check. The Atropos is up next and sends everything it has into the Thunderwolf Cav on the center, managing to pick up 2 dogs. The squad will activate its once per battle Blood Surge move, but will have to CP re-roll it to make sure they get into engagement range. It will cost them 2 due to the Calidus being nearby. Calidus into the Eradicators, and she scores a wound. Warglaive fires into the Eradicators and picks up a model. Warglaive directly in front of them will follow suit and picks up the remaining 2. Helverin in the back fires into Logan's squad and manages to pick up a model. Second Helverin will fire at point blank range, taking down another dog and leaving another at a single wound remaining. Third Helverin will shoot into the squad from across the board, managing to take down the wounded Cav. The nearby Warglaive will fire into Logan's squad and finally picks up the final Thunderwolf Cav. Man, those guys are tough. And the Helverin picks up the Calidus Assassin. Moving on to charges, and the Boneglaive will attempt an 8-inch charge in the Thunderwolf Cav to potentially lock them up and avoid the charge bonus. They CP reroll it, but it still fails with a 7. Green Warglaive will make its charge into the Eradicators. It will not tank shock. Warglaive manages to pick up the entire Eradicator squad and will consolidate into the Thunderlord. It has the opportunity to swing in, but unfortunately fails to score a single wound. Time for ongoing combat, and only 4 Thunderwolf Cavs can swing into the Warglaive. This proves to be plenty as they manage to take it down to just 4 wounds remaining. It will crack back, scoring 3 wounds, but it fails to pick up a single model. That is going to end the turn for the Imperial Knights. They'll score just 2 points on Cleanse and hold on to Mark for Death until next turn. Top of round 3, and Space Wolves get a little lucky on secondaries here, drawing Bring It Down and Cleanse for the turn. They control 3 objectives, but only score 10 on primary due to the mission rule. Warglaive from House Malanax is the Oath of Moment. Start of the movement phase, and the Space Wolves are going to shift fire, falling back the Thunderwolf Cav squad in the center and move them towards the northern objective. JPIs are going to move out from the building and onto the center objective. Cav squad that was hiding in the deployment zone is foaming at the mouth and makes a move on the Bone Warglaive. Logan will reposition to finally sink his teeth into some Arbingers. At the end of the movement phase, Knights are going to rapid ingress a Warglaive behind enemy lines. Start of the shooting phase, and Logan will fire into the Helverin, failing to score a wound. Space Wolves spend a command point on chucking a grenade on the Bone Glaive. It suffers 1 mortal. Logan Grimnar will pop his once per battle Wolf Walk, giving all units rerolls to their charges and rerolls to their hits. And the charge phase starts off strong by the Thunderwolf Cav making the dual charge into both Warglaives. It's a bold strategy. Let's see how it works out for them, Cotton. They then spend a command point to fall back and charge, and the other Thunderwolf Cav makes their dual charge into the Helverin and Warglaive. Finally, Logan is in as well. Start of the fight phase, and both characters in company will swing into the Bone Glaive, absolutely obliterating it. It does not explode. The remaining 3 will swing into the Warglaive on the objective, bringing it down to 8 wounds remaining. Imperial Knights spend 2 command points to interrupt with the Warglaive into the squad that has not attacked yet, but unfortunately fails to take down a single model. Space Wolves will spend their final command point on Go for the Throat, giving the squad Lance and +1 AP. Half the squad swings into the wounded Warglaive, managing to take it down. It does explode, dealing mortals across the board. The initial Thunderwolf Cav squad will take 1 mortal. The squad that took it down suffers 2 mortals, picking up a wolf. The Helverin suffers 2 mortals, and the Atropos survives unscathed. The rest of the squad swings into the Helverin, and to the surprise of absolutely no one, absolutely pulverizes it. It does not explode, and the squad will consolidate onto the objective. Logan swings into the Warglaive, bringing it down to 8 wounds, and the Warlord will also swing into it, bringing it down to 4, bracketing it. Warglaive will clap back into the Warlord, but he makes all of his saves. That is going to end a strong turn for the Space Wolves, scoring 6 points on Bring It Down and 4 points on Cleanse. The Warlord surviving means the Space Wolves have completed Saga of the Bear, giving the entire army a 6-up Feel No Pain. Bottom of round 3, and the Imperial Knights have Marked for Death from last turn and draw Overwhelming Force as their secondaries for the turn. The Atropos is out OC'd on that objective, and so the Imperial Knights will only score 5 points for controlling a single objective. The wounded Warglaive in the center is battle shocked. The Helverin will push forward, staying outside of engagement range. Green Warglaive will fall back onto the home objective. Silver Helverin will push forward and take its place. Calidus will move towards the center, spreading the Vector and getting line of sight on the JPIs. Warglaive will move on to the center point, stealing it away from the jump pack intercessors. In what might be a mistake, the Atropos will come around the corner to potentially charge the Thunderwolf Cav. The Helverin will reposition so it has a 6-inch charge into the nearby character, but maintains line of sight onto Logan. The final Warglaive moves in on the Wolves' home objective. Start of the shooting phase, and the Knights are going to spend a command point on Squire's duty, targeting Logan Grimnar. The Warlord must fall. Warglaive into the Infiltrators, and it takes down one of them. Warglaive in the center fires into Logan, bringing him down to 6 wounds remaining. The Calidus fires into the JPIs and manages to pick one up. Helverin will send everything into Logan, and he survives at a single wound. Wanting to ensure the takedown, the second Helverin will fire everything into Logan and proves to be enough to fall the Warlord. Knights decide that leaving 2 squads at half strength is the play, so stratagems are less potent, and the Atropos will fire into the Cav squad on the objective. It manages to take down 2 of them. The Helverin will fire into the same squad, taking one down and leaving another at just 2 wounds remaining. Going into charges, and the Warglaive will fail its 5-inch charge into the Infiltrators on the objective. The Knights do not have the CP to re-roll it. The Warglaive will make its charge into the JPIs on the center objective, moving to the backside of them to leave room for the Calidus. And the Calidus is in with a 7. Both Helverins will make their charges into the lone Wolflord. Atropos will charge the Thunderwolf Cav squad at full health. Thankfully, the Calidus Vect Bubble is preventing the Heroic from the other squad. Atropos into the Thunderwolf Cav manages to pick up 2 of them. In a heads-up play, the Wolves will pile in, adding OC to the objective, and crack back into the Atropos, bringing it down to just 11 wounds remaining. Oof. Warglaive into the JPIs, and it absolutely whiffs, only wounding a model. The Calidus will swing into them, picking up 3, but leaving 1 alive, which means the Knights fail to score marked for death. Lone JPI swings into the Calidus and does just enough to take her down. Lastly, the 2 Helverins will kick the Wolflord to death. Not a great turn for the Imperial Knights. They do take down the Warlord, but fail to score any points on secondary. They'll discard Overwhelming Force for a command point and hold on to Marked for Death for next turn. Seeing the writing on the wall, they elect to take a secret mission and will choose War of Attrition. Top of round 4 for the Space Wolves, and they will draw Extend Battle Lines and Area Denial as their secondaries for the turn. They control 2 objectives and will score 10 points on primary. Oath of Moment target will be the Atropos. Going into movement, and the wounded Thunderwolf Cav squad will push towards the center for Area Denial. Cav squad that's in combat will fall back, ready to charge again shortly. The infiltrators will advance to get to the other side of the wall, but remain on the home objective. The lone jump back intercessor will move towards the Knights' home objective. It will then shoot into the wounded Warglaive and fail to score a wound. Its charge o'clock, and the JPI will make its charge into the Warglaive, scoring 1 mortal wound on impact. Thunderwolf Cav will make their charge into the Warglaive on the center objective. Final squad of Thunderwolf Cav will charge back into combat with the Atropos. Imperial Knights have the 2 CP to interrupt, so Space Wolves will fight into the Atropos first, managing to take it down. It does not explode, but the Knights will spend 2 command points to fight on death. Thanks to some fantastic 4-up invols, it manages to only take 1 wolf with it. Wolfpack on the center objective makes short work of the wounded Warglaive. The lone JPI attempts to take down the wounded Warglaive but fails. It will clap back and picks up the JPI. This will score them marked for death. Back-to-back strong turns for the Space Wolves. They'll score 5 points for extending battle lines and 5 points for area denial. Imperial Knights do manage to score marked for death for 5 points. Bottom of round 4, and ironically enough, Imperial Knights will draw Extend Battle Lines and Area Denial as their secondaries for the turn. They control 1 objective and will score 5 points on primary, taking them up to 20, which is the maximum they could score due to taking a secret mission. They are now honored and will generate an additional 3 command points, and the Feel No Pain now drops down to a 5+. Knights will then spend a command point on Squire's duty, targeting the Thunderwolf Cav squad on the center objective. They immediately go into moving the Helverin over to the southern objective, stealing it away from the lone lieutenant. Space Wolves elect not to use his reactive move ability, as he is already 1 inch away from the wall. Knights will spend 2 command points on Shoulder the Burden, giving a +1 to pretty much everything to the wounded Warglaive. Due to the ruins being in the way, the Helverin will inch forward just enough to be able to see the center objective. Green Warglaive will move all 13 inches of its movement to get as close to the Thunderwolf Cav as possible. Importantly enough, it does not make it onto the objective yet. Helverin will reposition to see the Wolves on the center. Lastly, the Warglaive will steal the Wolves' home objective and could have potentially started to burn, except it took the secret mission and cannot score on turn 5. Navigator will hide back behind cover. The Helverin with the most narrow line of sight fires first, taking down a wolf and wounding another. Second Helverin fires into the squad, managing to take down the last Thunderwolf Cav, and the 2 characters will break apart. Third Helverin into the Wolflord brings him down to 2 wounds remaining. The Warglaive fires its thermal spear into the battle leader, absolutely vaporizing it with 16 wounds. Going into charges, and the green Warglaive will charge the lone Wolflord. Knights will spend their final command point to tank shock, and it proves to be just enough to pick up the Wolflord. This will score them area denial. Warglaive will make it into the infiltrators. It will pick up the model, and they will crack back, scoring a single wound. Knights finally get a solid turn, scoring 5 points for extending battle lines and 5 points for area denial. Top of round 5, and the Space Wolves will draw Storm Hostile Objective and Overwhelming Force as their secondaries for the turn. They control no objectives and will score 0 on primary. They will still use the Warlord's free stratagem ability on Insane Bravery to avoid being battle shocked. Start of the movement phase, and the Thunderwolf Cav will reposition for an easy charge into the Helverin. Lieutenant with Combi-weapon will step out of the building to get line of sight on the Helverin, and the Infiltrators will loop around the outside of the building. Space Wolves spend a command point to chuck a grenade at the Warglaive on the center. It takes 2 mortals and is down to 1 wound remaining. It's charge o'clock, and the lone lieutenant will make its charge into the wounded Warglaive. Thunderwolf Cav make their charge into the Helverin. The lieutenant swings in, scoring some wounds, but thanks to shoulder the burden, the Warglaive manages to survive. Space Wolves will spend a command point on go for the throat again, activating the Thunderwolf Cav into the Helverin. It proves to be too much for the Squire to stand, and they take it down. That is going to end the turn for the Space Wolves. They'll score 4 points for Storm Hostile Objective and 3 points for Overwhelming Force. Last turn of the game, and the Imperial Knights will draw Established Locus and Containment as their secondaries for the turn. That's pretty good. Start of the movement phase, and the Grey Helverin will move into the enemy deployment zone to establish Locus. Warglaive can't burn the objective, so will move off to the table edge to score Containment. That is going to end the turn for the Imperial Knights. They will score 4 points for establishing Locus behind enemy lines, and 6 points for Containment on 2 table edges. They completed the secret mission by having battle line units in the enemy deployment zone, scoring them an additional 20 points on primary. With paint, that will make the final score 77 to 83 in favor of the Imperial Knights. What an absolutely fantastic game. Thank you, Zach, so much for coming out and playing. We really do appreciate it. And we want to thank you, the viewer. If you like what you see and want to see more of it, by all means, subscribe to the channel and drop us a like, as it helps us out quite a bit. But until next time, as always, happy gaming.